Oh, all right. We're just waiting. He's just using the men's room. So, in any case, Ernesto, the other father, Ernesto Abreu, is going to be here. I don't know. Something may have happened. We've waited a long while, so I know he wasn't feeling well. He could have something could have happened. So, we give you one father. We do have, he brought a friend of his who is a fluent, I would say, in English, enough to be conversant. His name is Tony Carrera. And so we'll bring in Salvatore Furtado, who's obviously the father of Safiro Furtado. And although he speaks some English, he's very limited, and he really is more conversant in...
The interpreter is Tony Carrera?
Carrera, that's correct.
How do we spell Salvatore? S-A-L...
V-A-T-O-R-E.
Thank you.
Do you know how old Sal is?
Oh, I can tell you, he's a lot younger than me, I know that. That's probably goes without saying, but no, I don't. I can't tell you.
Dorchester resident, Mr. Furtado?
Yes, he is, yeah. They both are. Both fathers live in Dorchester. They live separately, but they live in Dorchester. These young fellows were residents of Dorchester at the time of their deaths.
Did they live with their dads, or were they off on their
own? No, they didn't live with their father. They have lived with their father before. At least Safiro lived with his father at one point, but he wasn't living with his father at the time. And Danny Abreu was not living with his father.
Mr. Penny, common spell on the Salvatore? Is it S-A-L-V-A-T-O-R-E?
T-O-R-E.
And so I just want to make sure, we're talking to Ernesto, right?
No, you're talking to Salvatore Furtado.
Okay, thank you.
Ernesto may wander in here during the course, but if he does, we can suspend and set it up. And we've been here before, but
Did he get lost?
I don't know. They're people that are not really used to talking to media people, and so I don't know what it is. But anyhow.
Before we begin, can you tell us where we stand with the civil suit? Are you guys still considering it? Or are you moving
We're
forward?
still in it, yep. Come on in here, fellas. Come on in, Salvatore. We're going to have to kind of, let me just stand here. Why don't you come back in here and sit? Why don't you sit right there? And then Tony, you're going to interpret. Why don't you sit on the other side of the other? Oh, you got to push him aside. Let him sit on the end.
Yeah, let him come to the
Salvatore.
could you sit in front of the microphones?
Yeah.
And move your chairs up, please.
Slide him.
Come forward, please.
All right. All right, all set, ready to go?
Sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is William Kennedy. I'm the attorney for the estate of Safiro Furtado, and I'm also a representative of the family of the Abreus. As you know, several years ago there were 2 wrongful death cases filed in this case on behalf of the families of the 2 young men that were the victims in the recent case that was concluded with a not guilty verdict of Mr. Hernandez. Those civil cases were some time ago put on, a stay was ordered because of the pending criminal cases, and that stay will expire at the end of this month. And we intend at this point to go forward with the cases. I expected to have both fathers with us. I don't know what happened to Ernesto, but they've been here. He's been here before. But with me is Salvatore Furtado, the father of Safiro Furtado, and with him is his friend Tony Carrera, to the extent that we can get into any he can possibly translate for you. He's a native Haitian, Cape Verdean Creole speaker, so that he can speak in that regard. I will say that I've spoken to both Ernesto, the two fathers, and obviously Salvatore, who's with us here today. They were both greatly disappointed with the verdicts last week. They believe that, in fact, Mr. Hernandez was responsible for the deaths of their sons. But, you know, and Salvatore told me that he was at court a number of times. It was very painful to be at court, because every day he said that he was at court, it was like reliving the death of his son again. And it was a very painful experience. And certainly when the verdict came in, that increased the pain, with the thought that the person that was believed to be responsible was not going to be held accountable. Obviously, we all know that apparently Aaron Hernandez committed suicide, and I've asked Salvatore and Ernesto about that, and Salvatore has said that, you know, that he's a Christian, and he's a person that believes in life, and one of the reasons that he's continued to fight for some accountability in the loss of his son's life at the tender age of 27 is because his life was taken from him much too early. And in that regard, he doesn't believe that anybody should take anybody's life, and certainly doesn't believe that anybody should take their own life for the same reason, that life is a precious gift from God. He also understands that just like the loss that he has had and his family has had with the loss of his son, and the Abreu family has had with the loss of their son from the killings that took place in July of 2012, that the Hernandez family is going through perhaps something similar, and they take no joy in what's happened to him, and to more particularly to their families, his family. I think what he would like to emphasize is that he misses his son. He misses his son today as much as he missed him when he found out in the early morning hours that his son had been gunned down in Boston. His son was somebody that had aspirations to make his way in this world. He tells me, actually, he wanted to be a lawyer. Can't imagine why, but so he had ambitions. He was a young fellow that was a very good soccer player. He played goalie. He played soccer here on a kind of a club team here in Dorchester. He lived here for about 5 months prior to his death, and he misses that. He misses the time that he spent with them, whether it was watching you know, a soccer game together, or just sharing a story. He misses all of that. You know, he has a loss that he doesn't think will ever be sort of satisfied, but he wants to see accountability for his son's death, and that's what we're here about. I know that many of you had wanted to speak to him or them regarding recent events, and you know, again, I don't know to what extent he wants to say anything more than what I've said just now, but it's the emphasis that I think that he would want to place is that he lost somebody very special in his son, Safiro Furtado, as did the Abreu's with their son, Danny Abreu. So that's what he wants to, that's what he remembers, and that's what is important to him. With that, I guess if there's questions, we'll try to deal with it as best we can.
What's the status of the civil lawsuit, and what assets do you think that Hernandez and his estate have at this point? Well,
the civil case is still there. It's still active. It was just put on, held. A stay was ordered by the civil courts because of the pending criminal case. We don't know what the status is of any assets. We know that he had a house in Attleboro. We know that he was supposed to get certain bonus money from the New England Patriots. I don't know what the status of all of that is now. That'll have to be sorted out in the future. So the answer to the question is, we don't know. at this point some of that information.
What's the impact of the not guilty verdicts?
Well, I mean, there's a difference. We all know, well, I don't know if we all know that, but there's a different burden of proof, obviously. You've heard about it in terms of the criminal cases beyond a reasonable doubt. There's a presumption of innocence. There's various privileges that you have. In a civil case, it's a fair preponderance of the evidence. It's not the same standard, and it's a lesser standard. We believe that we have a very good civil case. I'm not going to say the criminal finding did not have an effect on the civil case. I'm sure it would. But the fact is that the civil case is allowed to go on, and we're allowed to present our case, probably with much the same evidence, but present our case nonetheless for a jury to determine whether or not we have made our case.
Mr. Furtado, could we get your reaction, sir, to the suicide of Aaron Hernandez in his prison cell?
de suicídio de Ana Hernandes na cela. Minha reação é como pessoa, como cristão, nunca te gostei que ele morre.
Mr. Carrera, could you lean toward the microphones and speak up for us, please?
He says that his reaction as a Christian, as a person, that he never likes for anybody to die.
And we're told that Mr. Hernandez wrote a verse from the book of John, speaking of being a Christian, on his forehead. How do you react to that?
Well, I don't know that. I don't. Wait a second. I don't. I don't know. I haven't heard that, let alone Mr. Furtado knowing that. So I don't want to. I don't think that's a fair question to respond to. Other than obviously what he said, and I think he's repeated here in terms of Mr. Carrera, that as a Christian, he doesn't believe in the taking of any life, and doesn't believe that someone should obviously take their own life, and so he doesn't take any joy in the death of Mr. Hernandez, despite the fact that he considers him responsible for the death of his son. That's that type of an outcome is for somebody else to determine, not him.
Would Mr. Furtado feel comfortable talking about how today's events, Aaron Hernandez's death, impacted the pain of losing his own son?
Vraiment se sentir confortável para falar do modo que dia de hoje que Hernandes morre, mas senti uma que tem impacta a dor que eu senti de perder o meu próprio filho. Tem conexão de que Deus quando faz alguém é flama que tem o direito de ter vida e de vida só ele. Então, a hora que a pessoa auto-criminaliza, traz a própria vida, esse é um problema, parte daquela pessoa, nunca sente nada satisfeito a hora que ele mata a cabeça, porque viola um direito que Deus dá. De maneira que, mas, he says that there's a question that when somebody when God created people, created man, that he gave them a commandment he gave Adam the commandment to follow for him to respect life, and that only God has the right to take somebody's life. That is, he says, it's very painful to him when somebody takes their own life.
Mr. Furtado, how do you feel that legally no one might ever be responsible for your son's death?
Eu fico sentindo que legalmente ninguém poderia ficar responsável pela morte do filho.
Încă te acredită na essa pergunta que faz, porque tem dois factos, ou impotência de autoridade ou qualquer coisa. Portanto, querer não só a autoridade tem que apresentar coisas concretas, mas também Deus está fazer seu trabalho, sei lá.
He says that.
You lean forward toward the mic and speak louder.
Yeah, he says that he doesn't believe, like in the question that how that it was asked, that nobody's responsible for the death of your son.
Yeah, let me just say, you know, we started these wrongful death cases before there was ever any criminal charges brought against Mr. Hernandez. You know, it was always intended for this matter to be handled as a separate matter, as we allowed to under our system of justice as a civil matter. That matter is continued. Is there any certainty with the result? Well, we know that the answer to that question, of course, is no. There is no certainty. Is it possible that, maybe no civil verdict against Mr. Hernandez or any other person would be made? I suppose that's all possible. I think what Mr. Furtado would say, maybe if he had a better mastery of the English language, is that he's here to participate in the justice system. That's why he cooperated to the extent that he could, that he attended the trial, and even though it was very painful for him, and even though some days he couldn't be there because of his job obligations and he had to work, but that he's committed, as he's indicated to me, to seeing that his son's death at a very young age, 27 years of age, is that matters, that there's some accountability for that, and that's what he wants to focus on in the future. So we don't know what that outcome necessarily will be, but this is why we started this process before there was any criminal charges, and why we're here today, and we intend to continue on.
And how does the death of Hernandez affect the civil trial lawsuit?
Well, what happens, it would happen in any case if he was a personal defendant, and now the case would be proceeding against his estate. So he's not there, I suppose, physically, but the case can proceed against his estate. Same thing would happen in any other kind of a case. So, is it better or worse? I don't know. But the case can still proceed against his estate. There might be other people that might speculate whether it's positive or negative. I'm not going to do that now.
Bill, it's our understanding that under mass law, because he died before his appeals were exhausted, his criminal convictions will ultimately be erased once his appellate counsel files paperwork for that. Do you know, does that have any impact on any of the compensation he may have been due by the Patriots or by the League or anything?
That may very well be. It's my understanding of the law, as you cited it, that the fact that that he has died before his appeal had been perfected in the other case in which he was convicted on, it may very well be that conviction will be nullified. What effect that has on the Patriots, I don't know, but that's something that we intend to look at with other counsel.
Did you say there's a $3.5 million signing bonus that may come due because he's not been convicted?
Well, at the time of his original, all I know is I haven't analyzed all of his compensation package, but at the time of his original arrest in the Odin Lloyd case, my understanding was that there was a $3.5 million bonus that we made a subject of an action in the Superior Court to try to attach, if you will, and we got a commitment from the Patriots that before any of that payment would be made, they would notify the court, the Suffolk County Superior Court, to give us a chance to deal with that. But that was part of our earlier proceedings on that. Now, whether there is any other money that would be due to Mr. Hernandez, I don't know. That's something that we would tend to look at. But again, the civil case continues. I think the emphasis here, certainly for Salvatore Furtado and the other family members, is that that their sons were special people. You have pictures of them there in front of you. They were buried together at Mount Hope Cemetery, side by side. They were very good friends in Cape Verde. They were good friends here. Danny Abreu borrowed a car from his sister, and 5 guys went out on a Sunday night. A Sunday night is because they worked at night as cleaners, and the one night of the week you get off is Sunday night, and that's the night they went out, and they went out to enjoy themselves, I suppose, to have whatever fun they could have on the one night of the week. I suppose they could get free, that someone could borrow a car, and they ended up getting gunned down. So that's the tragedy for these families. And as Salvatore has said to me, he thinks of the passing of his son every day. He was 27 years old. When you get to be 67 years old, as I am, you begin to realize, there's a lot of life to live after 27, and that was robbed from him. And Danny Abreu was only 28, and he was robbed of his life as well. So that's what they want to concentrate on. These are 2 very special people. They were cared about by their families, by their father, by their mother. Safiro's mother is Marie Texera, lives in Boston with his sister, Safiro, and they were special people to those, obviously, as they were to the Abreu family. And that's a loss that they have. And I think that the one thing that I think that they feel as if probably has been overlooked is that all of the attention that's been drawn on the star of former Patriots, not enough attention has been drawn on who these people were. They were referred to, I think at some point I referred to as cleaners, or they were more than cleaners. They were 2 very special people that, maybe made a lot of small favors for people, shared a story, shared a joke, spent time. They were good people that deserved to live, and that was robbed from them, and robbed from the companionship, of robbed from their family. So that's what this case was about when we first brought it, when Mr. Hernandez was with us, and that's what the case is about now that we intend to proceed on.
Mr. Furtado, could you just tell us, sir, if you were surprised by this news this morning after the not guilty verdicts just 5 days ago?
Claro que sim, fiquei surpreso porque nunca se esperava nunca de rejeitar o seu próprio direito de vida.
He says yes, he was very surprised, and he never thought that he would that Aaron Hernandez would reject his own life.
Anything further? So again, we appreciate it. We wanted to. I know there was a lot of attention, and with the recent events, to hear from some of the family members. Many of them, as you know, are not comfortable talking to the press. They're private people. But Salvatore Furtado was good enough to come down here and to present himself and to share some of his thoughts about recent events. And so, anyway.
Mr. Furtado, can you tell us how old you are?
That's what the first one done.
60.
Because he's 60.
60.
60, yeah.
Thank you.
Tony, can you spell your last name, please?
My name, Correa, C-O-R-R-E-I-A.
All right. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. And, thank you. All right.
Thank you very much.
Oh man. I think what you can ask is Creole.
Creole.
Yeah, Creole.
Cape Verde.
Are we giving up on Mr. Abreu at this point?
Apparently, I know I did call. He was in a cab about an hour ago, so I don't know where he went.
That's a long cab ride.
Yeah, it's a long cab. He only lives in Dorchester, so. But I know he wasn't feeling well, so he might have gotten
off track.
Off track, yeah. So if we can maybe do something in the
Thank
future.
you.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Dan, the night you were downstairs, ready to take your stuff?
Yeah, I was wondering if that was going to become an issue.
Yeah, I underestimated it. Yes, let's go for